Hmm. One moment, please. So we're starting with transport in cells today. The first thing we will talk about is diffusion. So for diffusion, the definition of diffusion is very important. Okay. In the transport of cells, diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. Understand that diffusion is the diffusion of all substances. Osmosis is the movement of water. And active transport is movement against concentration, movement of substances against concentration gradient. Okay. So let's go through them one by one. First of all, you are looking at the particular thing. What is diffusion? So diffusion is a spreading out of particles of any substance in solution, a particle or gas resulting in a net movement of a particle from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So in simple words, diffusion is the movement of substances from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. So we can represent it just like rolling downhill. This represents low concentration. CONC, shortcut for concentration. And this represents high concentration. Diffusion is the movement down the concentration gradient. This is diffusion, like going downhill. Since going downhill is easy, so anything would go downhill, right? So similarly. Okay. Guys, your video input is off, so keep your like speaker on. Okay, keep your microphone on so that
Okay.
I can get responses.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so here you can see in one corner of your room, you have sprayed some perfume particles, but the rest of the room does not have those perfume particles. So the corner where you have sprayed the perfume particles, it is most concentrated here. And it will be least concentrated here. So due to diffusion, the particles will move from high concentration to regions of low concentration. As a result, the particles will spread out and diffuse through the air until they are evenly spread. Okay. The next thing that you need to remember for diffusion, this is entirely passive process. So what does passive process means? It means do not need energy. Passive process simply means do not need energy. Okay? So diffusion is always passive. Remember, diffusion is the movement of particles in any fluid, whether that be liquid or that be gas. So the fluid can be a liquid or gas, dependent on how much kinetic energy they have. So diffusion depends on kinetic energy. This means the higher the temperature, therefore faster they can move by diffusion, because particles have more kinetic energy at higher temperature. More kinetic energy at high temperature. Okay. So one more time, recap of the page. First, understand diffusion. It is the movement of substances from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. Okay. I think I've missed a part here. Concentration. CONC, shortcut for concentration. To a region of low concentration. It is like going downhill. Low concentration is the lower portion of the hill. High concentration is for sure the higher portion of the hill. It is like going downhill. No need for any energy. It goes from most concentrated to the area of least concentrated in fluids. The fluid can be liquid or gas. Diffusion is entirely passive process. It does not need energy. But if the temperature of the air or kinetic energy is higher, they move faster and there are faster diffusion, because particles have more kinetic energy at higher temperature. Sasha, Akshara, any question?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. Now diffusion in living organism. See, in living organism, diffusion comes with a challenge. The challenge is cell membranes. Okay. This is a depiction of a particular cell membrane. Okay. And if you notice, here we are representing it with some type of substance, which is we are showing it with glucose. So we will consider it. Let's move on. Let's talk about it. First of all, how does a cell membrane behave? Remember, we talked about cell membrane allows some substances to enter and some substances to exit, but others are stopped. They need a permission to get in or get out. So all cells are surrounded by cell membrane, which separates the inside of the cell from its outside environment. Okay. So every cell, the word cell means compartment. And you know how compartment works, right? The compartmentalization means separating from outside world. Okay. So cell has a cell membrane that separates it from outside world. Substances have to be able to diffuse through the cell membrane to enter or exit the cell unaided. There are other ways for substances to get in. Okay. So if any substances want to diffuse, they must be unaided while entering or exiting the cell. Not all substances are able to diffuse across the cell membrane. Why they are not able to diffuse? Because the cell membrane is partially permeable, meaning some substances are able to enter or leave the cell, whilst others aren't. Example, oxygen and carbon dioxide. So, oxygen and carbon dioxide. Both of these particular gases are non-polar gases. Okay. Now, do you need to know that whether they are non-polar or polar? It will just help you understand it a little bit. Okay. Non-polar simply means that they are oil soluble. And you also know that these gases are water soluble. So, phospholipid is oily layer. So it is good at separating water soluble substances outside and keeping the water soluble from inside substances from mixing with the outside. But since these gases are non-polar, they are oil soluble, they can pass through the cell membrane very easily. So here, oxygen and carbon dioxide can diffuse across the cell membrane during gas exchange, whereas the carbohydrates and starch cannot. They're too big. So here is an example of it shown in the picture here. Let's see the example.
So is it the particle size which is too big?
Okay, two things can prevent a substance from getting inside a cell membrane. One,
Okay.
whether it is water soluble or it is oil soluble, or if that particular substance is too large. Okay.
Okay.
So this glucose molecule gathered outside the cell and there is a high concentration.
Yeah.
Over time, as time passes, okay, this glucose will diffuse into the cell down the concentration gradient, because since this diffusion, all right, is taking place, but the glucose is a water soluble substance, it should happen very slowly. Understand the point?
Okay. Yeah.
It should happen very slowly. If there were some kind of protein to create a channel, it would diffuse inside the cell much faster. But look into this particular molecule, which is starch. The starch molecule will have a very hard time trying to get out of the cell and will not be able to, because it is too
Okay.
large to pass through the gaps of this cell membrane. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, Sasha, any question here?
No, sir.
Okay. Another recap of the thing that we just did. So we're talking about cell membrane. We're talking about a cell. A cell means to make a compartment or compartmentalization. All right. A cell will have oxygen and carbon dioxide diffuse in them because they are non-polar or oil soluble, so that they can easily pass through this oily layer. However, if something that is very large, they will not be either be able to enter or be able to leave the cell. If they are inside the cell, they can't leave the cell. If they are outside the cell, they can enter the cell. Okay, why that would be the case? That's because they're too large. Okay, but if something is water soluble and they are too small, they may enter the cell, but only due to difference in concentration gradient. Since there is a high concentration outside and low concentration. ওরা তোমাকে দেখতে পাচ্ছে। ওরা তোমাকে দেখতে পাচ্ছে। Since there is a high concentration outside and low concentration inside, so they will move from a region of high concentration to low concentration. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Please keep your microphone on to respond with me instantaneously. All right. So things that can diffuse oxygen must diffuse into cell for aerobic respiration. By the way, the term aerobic respiration was used in our note, right? That we have to learn this topic, right? So
Yeah.
is the respiration that uses oxygen. Aerobic means with oxygen. Okay, and you know respiration, the word respiration literally means to break down nutrient molecules to release energy. This is just the meaning, okay? The word meaning. Break down nutrients to release energy.
So basically aerobic respiration is using breaking down nutrients to release energy in the presence of oxygen, right?
Yeah, by using oxygen. Yes, in the presence of oxygen. Correct. Very good.
Okay.
So this produces carbon dioxide. And once carbon dioxide is produced, so carbon dioxide is what? It's a waste, right? This is a waste. Waste for respiration. Okay. Waste for respiration. But also remember, carbon dioxide is reactant for photosynthesis. And you also know about oxygen. It is vice versa. Oxygen is a waste for photosynthesis, but it is a reactant for aerobic respiration. Very good. Okay, so now let's move on. Liver cells break down excess amino acid into the waste product urea. See, why are we talking about this waste? Because we need to get rid of them. Okay, so liver cells produces urea, and urea is a waste. So you need to get rid of them, which is highly toxic, must diffuse out of the cell to be excreted by the kidney. Okay, this is something that you have always heard of. Drink 2 liters of water every day, and if you don't drink it, then you're gonna have very bad time with your kidneys, right? Because your kidney must excrete urea, and to do that it needs a lot of water. So if you drink a lot of water, your skin will be healthy, your cells will be healthy, because they will be able to get rid of urea. Even though urea is produced by the liver, urea can diffuse out of the liver and will be in the blood. So every cell will be affected by urea if you do not get rid of urea. Here, carbon dioxide is produced by aerobic respiration and must diffuse out of the cell. So this is also a waste. Okay, in both transport of substances into and out of the cell by diffusion, the movement is driven by concentration gradient. Simply put it this way, if there is a membrane, consider this as your cell membrane. Okay, let's just call it cell membrane. There is a lot of oxygen outside the cell. Now, why isn't there a lot of oxygen inside the cell? The reason is very simple. This is outside cell. This portion is inside cell. Inside the cell, there will be a lot of carbon dioxide, but not oxygen. Because when oxygen diffuses in, oxygen will react with glucose and turn into carbon dioxide. Okay, so outside there will be very little carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide will need to diffuse out of the cell. So we're done with this particular page. Okay, let's do a recap. But if you have any question, please ask.
Okay.
You have a question?
No, sir.
All right. So here is the thing. We talked about oxygen and carbon dioxide. They move into the cell and leave the cell by diffusion. We talked about the fact that CO2 is a reactant for photosynthesis, but when it comes to respiration, it is a waste. And aerobic respiration means to break down nutrient to release energy using oxygen. And our liver also produces waste products such as urea, which we need to get rid of. All of our body cells in the body produces carbon dioxide. Okay. Now, this movement of substances, the carbon dioxide and the oxygen, happens due to difference in concentration gradient. Since there is more oxygen outside the cell, so oxygen diffuses into the cell. There will always be a low concentration of oxygen inside the cell because oxygen gets used up with glucose and gets burnt to produce carbon dioxide. Since there is low concentration of carbon dioxide outside the cell, so carbon dioxide leaves the cell. Now, there are few factors that affect the rate of diffusion. So you can already understand difference in concentration will affect diffusion. If there is a lot of a particle outside the cell, it will want to go inside the cell. So the greater the difference in concentration between two regions, faster the overall rate of diffusion. Temperature. We know that higher the temperature, particles will have more kinetic energy, so substance will move faster, they will collide with one another faster. As a result, they will spread faster. Okay, they will move and spread faster compared to when at lower temperature, when they have less kinetic energy. Did you get the point?
Sir,
Yes.
could you just, I don't understand the difference in concentrations.
You don't understand the difference in concentration. Okay,
Yeah,
so imagine this is the cell membrane, the red color one. Okay,
okay.
and these are the two places. Okay, this is, we're talking about two places. This middle one is the cell membrane. Okay,
Yeah,
all right. Now you have here many molecules waiting outside. These are
okay,
all oxygen. Okay, and inside you have only few of them. Okay,
okay.
and outside you only have couple of them, and inside you still have few of them. Where would
Oh,
be
okay.
the fastest diffusion?
In the
What
first
would
one,
be?
because there's less particles.
Yes, inside there is less particle, outside there is more particle, so faster diffusion.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
but at the same time also remember, diffusion do not require a cell membrane. Okay,
okay.
so this one would have slower diffusion because inside there is already enough number of particles, outside there is not that many, so technically it wouldn't want to get in. Okay,
Okay.
that fast. Okay, now surface area of a membrane separating the two regions. Greater the surface area, greater the rate of diffusion across it. Okay, so surface area of a cell membrane gives entry and exit points. I'll give you an example. Two cells represented side by side. This is one cell, nucleus inside. The next cell looks like this. What is the difference between the two cells? Can you try, Akshara?
What's that?
This is the left cell,
Yeah,
okay? And this is the right cell. Let's just call them that, okay?
okay.
In the right cell, what do you see in terms of surface area? You can see there is a folding in the cell membrane, right?
Yeah,
So this folding increases the surface area, okay?
okay.
All right. So these foldings increases surface area.
Okay.
And here, low surface area. So now, which one would be better at diffusion? Obviously, this right cell would be better at diffusion, right?
So, but then when it's the surface area is smaller, wouldn't it spread out more faster?
So here is the thing. If you have already particles waiting outside that wants to enter, having more surface area would give it a better advantage to take the particles inside you, because there are many entry and exit points.
Oh,
Did you get the point?
yeah.
Okay. So the right cell will have, all right, better diffusion due to greater surface area. Our body actually capitalizes on this surface area thing, and it does it in our small intestine.
Okay.
All right. But before we get to that, we can actually start talking about the surface area compared to volume ratio. Okay. Remember, greater the surface area, the better it is for absorption of substances, those that have to diffuse through cell membrane. The greater the surface area you have, the more those particles can get in easily. Okay. So, surface area to volume ratio of an organism affect how easily substance can be exchanged between that organism and the environment. Consider the single cell bacteria. It is only 1 micrometer in length. That means it will have an extremely large surface area compared to its volume. Okay, the ratio of its surface area would be extremely large. Okay, most bacteria are single celled organism. Bacteria are relatively large surface area in comparison to their volume. This means that the distance between the cell membrane at a bacterial cell surface and the center of the cell is relatively low. So the distance from outside the cell, let's say for oxygen, to go inside the cell is relatively low. If you were to consider human cells, maybe our cell, in even in the place where we have the flattest, maybe like imagine this earlobe, right? This is quite flat, right? Even here, the cells are maybe thousands of layers thick. Get the point? There are thousands of layers of cells, even in the tiniest, the thinnest portion in our body. So will oxygen be able to diffuse through thousands of cells before reaching that middle portion of the cell? It will be very, very difficult. But we are a very active organism. Now we need the oxygen the fastest. That's why we have a lungs, where we absorb the oxygen into our blood, and then our blood moves through all parts of our body in capillaries to reach every nook and cranny of the cells, all right, in the body, and then basically we get supplied with oxygen. Okay.
Sir, I didn't understand the surface area to volume ratio.
Okay, I will talk about it in greater details. Now look into this one. In the left, I have a particular, I think we already have, okay. I don't need to draw the picture. That's because the picture is already present. Okay, so let's look into this one first. Okay, we have two blocks. One is 2 meter by 2 meter by 2 meter. Okay, when we did the surface area for this particular block, our surface area is 24 meter square. When we did the volume of the block, our volume is 8 meter cube. When we did the surface area to volume ratio, it came 3. Okay, so surface area to volume ratio, our value was 3. Now, if we do the surface area of a particular block, which is 1 times 1 times 1, then the volume is only 1, but the surface area becomes 6 because there are 6 sides. 1 times 1, there are 6 sides. When we do the ratio, it becomes 1 to 6. Okay, surface area is 6 times higher than the volume. Whereas here, the surface area is 3 times higher than the volume. Did you understand the part here now when it is represented as a ratio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the idea needs to work in your head in this way. The greater the surface area, faster the diffusion. Just one moment. The Apple Pencil is having a little bit of hard time charging. Guys, excuse me for a moment. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Give me 2-3 minutes. All right. Um, can you go through the next 1, 2, 3 pages? All right. Because all of them will be talking about surface area and the volume thing. So I'll just explain to you in a moment. I just need to carry a message to my wife and I'll be back in a moment. Okay. All
Okay.
right. Okay. And tomorrow's lesson 1 p.m. Okay, right?
Sir, I'll check with my mom and I'll ask her to message you.
So should I write it in the message?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just write it.
Oh, sir, I won't be able to do it tomorrow because I'll be in school.
Yeah, I know. I'll send you the recording. Don't worry.
Okay, sir.
All right. And don't worry. We keep on taking extra lessons. All right. If one misses, we do it for another one. It's always okay. Don't worry about it. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Sasha and Akshara, just we need to discuss few things. Hello?
Okay.
Yes,
So,
sir.
for example, I am giving you the idea in this way. Try and understand it. If you have a particular, like a line like this, okay, representing a particular field. If you have a very big field, all right? So first start with the small field. Let's say within this particular small field, you have balls, those that are bouncing, okay? Imagine that is the oxygen molecule, all right? They are
Okay.
trying to enter. Wouldn't it be better if the length of the field would be really, really big so that many of them can give the try,
Yeah.
right? Because you need oxygen. That's your survival. So you need it and you want to have it as much as possible. So the more they would come and bump with your cell membrane, the greater the chances that they have that some of them will be lucky and they will get in, right? So instead of having 2 going in, you would have 4 going in now because you have greater surface area. Did you get the point?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
diffusion can only occur in the surface. That is one of the biggest limitation of diffusion. Now look at this bacteria. It is so small. 1 micrometer is 1,000 times smaller. It is 1,000 times smaller than 1 millimeter. And probably anything smaller than half a millimeter, you can't even see it. Okay? Actually, no,
Okay.
maybe you guys are young, so you can see it. Maybe I can't see it. Okay? Did you
Okay.
get the point? Even this
Yeah.
dot that I'm drawing here, this is easily close to a millimeter. Okay? I can make it smaller. It almost goes negligible. You probably were just looking at some speck of dart now, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So the thing is simple. When these gases has to travel only a short distance, when these gases they have to travel only a short distance, they can easily diffuse in, and in that case also carbon dioxide can easily diffuse out. But make the organism a little bit bigger and there will be multiple layers of cells and the oxygen can only bounce with the top layer of cell, not with the inside layer of cells. Then it becomes a little bit difficult for the oxygen to go through that many layer of cells, trying to reach the inner cells. Okay, so substances do not have to travel very far in a small organism. So transport by diffusion and osmosis or active transport, they are alone sufficient for them to meet their daily demands. Whatever demands like need for oxygen, all right, to lose carbon dioxide, or to get in nutrients such as glucose, amino acid, get rid of carbon dioxide, get in some oxygen, get rid of other waste products such as urea. Get the point?
Yeah.
Okay. So now the same thing is explained here. The thing, even though explanation was given here, unfortunately, the units used here made a small problem. Okay, because there are 2 different types of units being used. But overall, if we remove the unit and only look into the limitation of the surface area ratio, you can see when having a greater surface area compared to volume, substances have to travel smaller distance. Substances have to travel smaller distance. when the object is large and going to the center would take much longer time. Any question, Akshara, Sasha, you can ask me.
No, sir.
All
No,
right.
sir.
Okay. So again, we were saying here, the greater the surface area, faster the diffusion. Okay. Thank you. You have understood this one. No problem. Just one more addition. Diffusion only occurs on the surface. Okay. So moving on. Thank you. Okay, guys. Diffusion in multicellular organism. The term diffusion in multicellular organism mainly refers to organism those that have many, many cells and are bigger. So think of a human as an example. Think of a plant as an example. Okay. We both need to have special surface area in order to increase the surface area for diffusion. For example, a plant needs a lot of water. Along with the water, the plant requires nitrate, phosphate. The plant requires nitrate, phosphate, or things like uh, sulfate. By the way, these are all water-soluble substances. Don't worry. I'll write down the name here because later on you may not remember the name and that can create confusion. Plant needs these ions, okay? I will explain a little bit of story for them so that you can remember well. So plant needs phosphate for making DNA. Plant needs phosphate to make DNA. Remember, plants are the producer. So they need to make nutrients and those we use. We can't make all by ourselves. I mean, you may, I don't know, you may drink some phosphate ions and will it get incorporated in your DNA? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. So it depends. Plants are the producers, so they can do it. Anyways, nitrate for plant, nitrate is needed for making proteins and DNA. Proteins and even DNA, because DNA contains nitrogen. Sulfate is needed for making proteins. Okay. So here is the thing. Plant needs water and the water can be absorbed by root. So the plant have root hair cells. This root hair provides a large surface area compared to the volume of the cell. So faster diffusion can occur. Any question?
No, sir.
No,
Okay, here is the thing. In the intestinal epithelial cell, do you see this large surface area? Now, you know that digested food molecules are waiting to get inside the cells, right? In the small intestine. And then giving them large surface area means they can be easily absorbed into the cell from so many different locations. Okay, so faster diffusion can take place. So remember, greater the surface area, faster the diffusion. Okay, here, let's read out this particular part. Large multicellular organisms like humans have relatively small surface area in comparison to their volume. This means that the distance between the surface of the organism to its center is relatively large. This is why larger organisms usually have exchange surfaces and transport system, as diffusion, osmosis, and active transport cannot happen sufficiently to meet a larger organism's need otherwise. Meaning our body is so large that we need special surfaces where there will be diffusion taking place. Otherwise, only diffusion, only osmosis, only active transport alone for our entire body will not be enough to meet the requirements. So what do we also have along with the diffusion, osmosis, and active transport? We have transport system. Akshara,
Yes, sir.
yes. Question. Ask a question.
Uh,
You understood all of it? So I will ask,
yeah,
what is the gas exchange surface we have in our body?
gas exchange
Surface.
surface.
Sasha?
Yes. Capillaries.
Good thought. Lungs, first of all, lungs. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, from the atmosphere. Because I didn't make the question, I made it incomplete. So I agree to your answer. I mean, of course, you
So
can
I
answer
thought you meant
capillary.
in the cells.
Yeah. All right. You can answer capillary. All right. So the gas exchange surface in our body, the first gas exchange surface with the atmospheric air is the lungs. So similarly, think of it. What is the exchange surface? The surface where we will absorb all the nutrients from the intestine, that is the small intestine. And you see the small intestine have some special structure, don't they? See that?
Oh, sir, what's villus?
So basically, villus is a term which is singular, meaning this single protrusion here. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So this finger like projection, see this look like a finger like, right? It
Yeah.
looks like a finger. Yeah. So since it looks like a finger, that's why it's called a villus. Okay. So
Okay.
now the thing is, even these villas have cells. All right. These villas on their surface, let's say if we zoom into these villas on their surface, they have cells. Okay. Those that have, remember the picture that I've drawn, the finger like projection on the cells?
Yeah.
These are called microvilli.
So what is it for?
So again, small intestine, you have all the nutrients, digested nutrients, right?
Yeah.
You want to absorb them because you want to use them, right?
Yeah.
Yes. How would you make it possible? You would make it possible by absorbing through this large surface area into this cell. You will get inside the cell and then it will go into the blood, then return back to the heart and get circulated to all parts of the body. Understood?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now moving on. Okay. So by the way, this cell was the one that is representing here. Okay. So to do faster absorption, our body is like totally equipped, all right, to make the diffusion, to make the absorption as fast as possible. So again, small intestine, the walls of the small intestine has foldings. Okay. Understand in this way. The walls of the small intestine has foldings in them. And within that folding, okay, zoom in a little bit. Within that folding, understand in this way that there are microvilli. Sorry, there are villi. Okay. These walls, they are not straight. There are villi. And within that villi, there are cells with microvilli. Did you get the point?
So sir, it
Yeah.
keeps like there is like a lot of villi on the villi.
Basically, what it means is that absorption requires a very large surface area. Since this particular location is very small, the body has special adaptation to increase the surface area so that faster diffusion can take place.
Okay, sir.
All right. So I think this should answer this particular topic adequately. Don't worry, we will be looking at this even in our digestion chapter. So please just understand the idea and move on. Okay. So, role of this particular place in our body. Role: most absorption, all right, of digested food molecules into the bloodstream occurs across the wall of the small intestine. So the small intestine needs to be adapted. It needs to be adapted for faster diffusion. Okay. How is it adapted to its role? It has a highly folded surface area that is lined with specialized intestinal epithelial cells. Themselves have a high folded cell membrane. This increases the surface area even further. Only one layer of epithelial cells covers the surface area of each villus. This decreases the diffusion distance. Each villus has a good blood supply. This maintains concentration gradient. I'll just give you the simple understanding. Once we have the glucose, okay, understand it from here. Once you have the glucose gets absorbed into this cell, which means the glucose is actually absorbed into this cell and then it can enter the bloodstream directly. Did you get the point?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Question. Your question, please. Hello? Your question, please. Oh,
No,
no.
sir, I don't have any questions.
Okay, moving on. Here, see, this is what a single small unit of the lungs known as what? Alveolus. By the way, remember in biology, plurals are a little bit tricky. This is singular, okay? The plural for alveolus is alveoli, okay? You know how the plural for stomata is, so the plural for stoma is stomata. Stomata is actually a plural word. Got it? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. Our lungs have a lot of these alveolus. Right next to the alveolus, we have deoxygenated blood that are coming through the artery, then entering the capillary, and then living through the vein is oxygenated blood. Because in lungs, blood gets oxygenated and blood loses carbon dioxide. So the vein carries oxygenated blood and the arteries carries deoxygenated blood. Here in the picture, what you are looking at, these are capillary. Okay. So from the body, all the deoxygenated blood goes to the heart. Heart pumps it to the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery takes it to the lungs. From the lungs, it goes to the pulmonary vein. From the pulmonary vein, the oxygenated blood enters the heart. The heart pumps it back again to rest of the body, where it gives off the oxygen, takes all the CO2, all right, gets deoxygenated, returns back to the heart again, and the circuit is complete. Okay. So the role of the lungs in the body. Gas exchange between air in the alveoli and the blood. The supply to supply the cells with oxygen for aerobic respiration and remove carbon dioxide. Remember, aerobic respiration must take place in presence of oxygen. So to allow all cells to do aerobic respiration, we must provide it with oxygen. Got it?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
How is it adapted to its role? There are millions of alveoli. Actually, if we take out all of these alveoli and spread out, let's say in a field, it will at least be the surface area of half a tennis court. Our lungs will spread out to have the surface area of half a tennis court. Now, based on your idea before, greater the surface area, faster the diffusion. Do you understand why we need to have such a big surface area for diffusion?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
So more surface area means those, remember those oxygen molecules bumping into it? They will bump even in greater number in greater surface area, and more oxygen will be able to get in. And more carbon dioxide consequently will be able to leave. Okay. So next. So there are millions of alveolus which collectively provide a large surface area. This increases the surface area for diffusion. The wall of the alveolus is only 1 cell thick with a moist lining, excellent blood supply. This maintains concentration gradient. This is something that you also need to understand. Blood supply is very important thing in our body. When these red blood cells are done absorbing oxygen, they are being carried away. This means this location is again filled up, getting filled up with this blue color deoxygenated, all right, red blood cells, means the ones that have less oxygen. So that they will gain oxygen, and the process can keep repeating, right? And then you keep on breathing as well. Don't you keep on ventilating the lungs so that the air stays fresh inside the lungs? Get the point?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So the ventilation helps as well. This is from a fish. Fish have gills, and those gills have blood vessel. See how carbon dioxide diffuses out and oxygen can diffuse in. Okay. But remember, fish do not stand against gravity. When fish stays in water, fish do not have to fight gravity. Okay, that's why you can see blue whale can be so large, but then if they get stuck in land, they literally crush on themselves due to their own body weight and die. Okay, so if you have never understood why a whale stuck in a sea beach will die, even though they can breathe in air, the reason why they will die in a sea beach when they are stranded, it's because their body is not adapted for standing against gravity. So they don't have any muscle to keep themselves away from gravity. So their own body's weight crushes their lungs, crushes their heart, crushes their intestine and digestive system, and then they vomit everything out sometimes, and then they die. Okay, make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the role in the body. Gill's role in the body would be gas exchange, but this would be between the flowing water that are passing through the gills for aerobic respiration to remove waste. So fish do not have to stand against gravity, so they don't need a lot of oxygen to survive. Okay, so their gills is way more efficient, all right, just by absorbing the oxygen from the water. Because you see, extracting oxygen from the water is much more easier than from extracting from the air, because in the water the oxygen is already dissolved. Okay, all they have to do is do the exchange of carbon dioxide and get in the oxygen. Each gills is made of a lot of smaller plates called filaments, which themselves are covered in projections called lamella. This increases the surface area. The dense capillary network ensures a good blood supply flowing through them. This maintains a good concentration gradient, meaning if the blood gets oxygenated, like as you can see in the picture, the red, they then get taken out of that particular location. Okay, by the way, in the fish, oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood can mix. In mammals it doesn't mix. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, now you might be wondering why, how they say, as I told you, they don't need a lot of oxygen to survive. They don't maintain body temperature, they don't stand against gravity. So their body don't need a lot of oxygen to do aerobic respiration, because all they need to have the oxygen for is for swimming and keeping their movement. They do not control body temperature. Our body controls body temperature, so our body keeps on burning all of those glucose, all of those nutrients that we have inside our body. And also, secondly, when you are sitting in the chair, aren't you feeling a little bit of pressure on your leg that you are putting some effort to stand up or sit down? Whenever you are lying down
Yeah,
on
so
the bed, you are still using some amount of energy to stay lied down. Because other than that, you're made of 60 to 70% water. How would you retain your shape? You would just go flat, na? Get the point? So all of the
Yeah.
muscles are acting up to keep you upright. Okay. Which, if you are not realizing it, don't worry. You will realize very soon. All right. As you will move your hand and legs, try and focus on the muscles, those that are working. And then you will realize very soon how much of aerobic respiration your body constantly does. And no wonder you breathe a lot. All right. Obviously, you need to take in a lot more oxygen compared to that of a fish of a similar size of yours. Okay, like if the fish would be same size as you are, yet the fish would need way less oxygen. First of all, they don't control body temperature. They're very streamlined. They only need the oxygen to maintain their muscle for swimming. Okay. Next, adaptation for exchange in plants. As we have already talked about, the root hair cell having a very large surface area. Okay. Um Okay, so uh, Akshara and
Yes, sir.
Hanitra and Hashwita, they have agreed for the lesson tomorrow. Tomorrow it will still be a biology lesson, by the way. Okay,
Okay.
all right. Or do you have any other subjects in mind that you require a help on?
Not any other subjects, sir.
Okay, if you can mention me what are the topics you have, Akshara, then in your biology would be a nice thing we could follow through those. Okay.
Yeah, usually Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday we have bio lessons. So since this week we didn't go to school, I'm not sure.
No, like, sometimes teacher tells you like what are the topics in this term. If they can let you know, then we can finish all of them first and do the question answers beforehand.
Usually
Hmm.
at the start of the term, like
Hmm.
when we pick the subjects, they just tell us to for this year they just told us to check the portions in the Cambridge website.
Uh-huh.
That's what they'll be doing for year 10 and year 11. But for
So,
this term, they'll
hmm.
only send the portions like when once our exam timetable is posted.
Oh,
So
like whatever they can cover up until then, so that you can't actually give them like a blame. Oh, you didn't finish this. Who is gonna make it?
yeah.
Ah,
So
so
last time they changed a
good
lot of
trick,
topics in
good trick.
chemistry.
Huh?
Last time they changed a lot of topics in chemistry. They removed a lot of them because they couldn't fit it. And then we did one topic in like one day.
Look, not to be worried, okay, about previous year, whatever is gone is gone. You were in year 9. At year 9, every idea of topic are just limited to, I'll just show you the structure. Okay, this is this, finished. Okay, so
Yeah.
those ideas are very raw, by the way. And
Okay.
school teachers ask question on their own. Okay, it's called pre-IG. Okay, pre-IGC.
Okay.
So that's a different thing. But here now we are in year 10. Now we are IGCSE. Okay, whatever
Uh,
we do in year 10, we will just complete half of the syllabus in year 10, and then we will carry it forward for year 11.
yeah.
Understand? And in year
Yeah.
11, we will only have only small bits of syllabus left. All right. And you will automatically notice this something as well. This is something maybe you'll see whenever we pass a particular year, our brain develops, and the next year, the previous years, whatever we studied feels a little bit easier. Okay.
Okay.
So you will find out that some of the topics that you have done over here this year, all good. Only the things that you will be meeting up next year are the ones those that are difficult. And it is just
Okay.
normal conception in a concept in our brain. Is that given the task, what we have to do is difficult, and what we don't have to do is not difficult. Okay.
Okay.
Did you get the
So
point?
also,
Yeah.
um, uh, on Friday I have the physics test, which is structured. It's the same topics we did. The speed, time, and then density. So that's
So it's
fine.
just the same test, only getting postponed and postponed. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, not to worry, Akshara. The lesson tomorrow is at 1 o'clock. If you want to revise after the biology lesson, something extra, I will still have some time to do that because the lesson will finish at 2:30. I'll have to leave home at 3. So I'll have half an hour at least to give you if you want any.
Okay.
Okay. So, but make sure that you post me the problems earlier. Okay.
Yeah. I don't have any problems because Harshvita, she's in my physics class as well. So I'll have to check with her as well.
Yeah. So please do. Any
Okay.
small problem is also a problem. All right.
Okay.
You send me, because if you keep me notified, I know what I have taught and then other things. And after that, if you if you maybe do a bad in the exam, all right, then
Yeah.
will then it will be fair in all sense that yes, there were some lackings from my side. All right. But if I'm not informed and then you give me all of a sudden a surprises, those things, you know how things work, right? All right.
Yeah.
Things will, I'll be like, oh man, I didn't even have a clue you had an exam. And then I didn't have a clue you didn't know how to do this. All right. You know,
Okay.
yes, because it's online lesson. Face-to-face lesson, you would have received already by now, or doing 2 months of lesson, you would have already received many things from me. All right. And then you would
Okay.
be doing those things actively while going through the classes as well. So those that will add to your value. Now, going
Okay.
forward, if it is possible, you guys can come for face-to-face lesson. Now, that is a totally optional thing. Maybe if
Yeah.
one of the parent can carry, okay, you over here, because all of you, four of you are doing the same subjects. Maybe one day per week you could come over here specifically on Friday. All right, if that is possible. All right.
Okay.
So like then I would really appreciate that face-to-face lesson. I would have all of those materials printed for the week. I would give it to you. We would go through it. Would pre-plan things. Would be much better. Okay.
Okay.
Not to feel agitated or anything. And even for Sasha, even though your syllabus looks very big and broad, all right, don't worry. These particular things that they have given us, this is just a normal thing. Osmosis, diffusion, active transport. We already covered up osmosis. We are looking at different places where diffusion takes place. Then after that, we will talk about osmosis and active transport, because they are very like one thing only. So they don't require a lot of understanding there, since you have already understood diffusion. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let's look into the adaptation of this particular root. What do we see? We see that there is a root here, right? A protrusion. This gives an extra bit of surface area. So greater the surface area, faster the diffusion, correct? What is the purpose of the particular root? The root's purpose is to absorb water and mineral ions. By the way, the absorption of water is called osmosis. And absorption of mineral ions will definitely be active transport. Okay? Because mineral ions have charges. They just can't enter the cell just like that. Okay? They have to. And always remember, the cells in a plant have high concentration of mineral ions compared to outside. Always. So it has to come through active transport, because coming from a region of low concentration to a region of high concentration. So we will slowly give this particular part to you. But first of all, you need to understand about the surface area. So the root network is highly branched. This means this gives a greater surface area. And then the hair projection also increases the surface area. Understood, na? Any question?
No, sir.
So why do a plant have many roots or branch root network? That's because it wants to have many highly branched surface area. Then those root has root hair cells, those that have projections, because this gives even greater surface area. So faster absorption of water. Okay. Next, here you can see in a leaf, did you notice the leaf allows the carbon dioxide to come in through that gap, the stomata, opened by the gourd cells? And how does the carbon dioxide diffuses in? It diffuses into the cells, into the chloroplast. Understood? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So higher the concentration of CO2 in atmosphere compared to inside the leaf. CO2 diffuses into the leaf through open stomata into airspace in spongy mesophyll. CO2 diffuses through the cell wall plus cell membrane of mesophyll cell and dissolves in cytoplasm plus diffuses into chloroplast. Okay. Any questions from here? Please. First of all, you had airspace here, right? The airspace in a plant cell is such that it touches the cell from many different sides. So CO2 can diffuse through that particular layer. And in spite of all of this, these cells all are moist. So CO2 can actually diffuse. Before diffuse into the cell, they can dissolve into that watery layer. Did you get the point?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So this one, you will learn much better about it when answering it. So role in the plant. The leaves contain most plant photosynthetic cells. Okay. And since those plant cells require a lot of CO2, don't consider that they need a lot of, all right, oxygen. Oxygen is a waste product for photosynthesis. Okay. Plant only need small quantity of extra oxygen at night, which they don't produce. During the day, they produce enough oxygen that they only think about getting rid of it, because for doing respiration, they already have enough of it. Okay? Photosynthesis requires efficient gas exchange between air and the surroundings, the leaf, and the photosynthetic cell, whilst minimizing water loss. It is adapted to its role. Stomata are tiny openings that predominantly cover the lower side of the leaf, allowing air to circulate inside the leaf. This decreases diffusion distance for carbon dioxide and oxygen. The lower layer of the leaf is made from spongy mesophyll cell, which allow air to circulate inside the leaf. Okay, so this was just, I just read out that particular portion that we just talked about here. Okay, now exchange surfaces. You already learned that to maximize the exchange of any substances by diffusion, by osmosis, by even by octave transport, you need a large surface area. The greater the surface area, the greater the rate of transport. Okay, and a barrier that is as thin as possible will provide a short diffusion path, meaning it will have a faster diffusion rate. Okay, so short diffusion path means faster diffusion rate. Okay, now to reduce the distance of exchange of materials between cells and bloodstream, what do we have? We have a large network of blood vessels. So the large network of blood vessels, the only purpose so that blood can carry oxygen nearest to all cells in the body. Okay. to move substances towards or away from the exchange surface to maintain concentration gradient. Gas exchange surfaces that are well ventilated to maintain concentration gradients. Did you get the point? Any
Yes.
questions?
Yes, sir.
Any questions
No,
here?
sir.
No.
So talking about osmosis. See, osmosis is specifically movement of water. So it is the diffusion, but for water. Okay? Movement for water. Now, you see, in animal body, everything's concentration is determined whether they are dissolved in water and how much of them are dissolved in how much water. That's why water is the fluid that gives any substances its concentration. Okay? For example, if you have 1 mole of sodium chloride dissolved in 1 dm cube of water, you will call it 1 mole per dm cube, right? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Correct. If you have 2 moles of sodium chloride dissolved in 1 dm cube of water, you will call it 2 mole per dm cube.
Yes, sir.
What if you have some water dissolved in some other water? What will you give the water a concentration? Can you give it a concentration? That means,
No.
yes, that means water is the source of concentration. That's why when talking about water, we can use a particular term where there are more water, okay, and where there are less water, okay. And to differentiate between these two, there must be a partially permeable membrane that can prevent the water from directly getting in. It needs to be like take permission, then enter. Did you get the point?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
So outside here, do you see anything dissolved in this water molecule?
No.
So any water molecule who has nothing dissolved in it is called high water potential. And any water that has something dissolved in it, in comparison to this one, this will be low water potential. This particular term, the high water potential and low water potential, I am giving star mark here. Please search any YouTube videos. It can be from Few School, from free science lessons, from any IGCSE network videos, all right? And check, all right? High water potential and low water potential. This is a concept that you got to build on your own, okay? Did you get the point?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Because water, we can't say high concentration. This region has a high concentration of water, okay? In some textbook, it does allow us. So we will say that, don't worry. But in other textbook, they don't allow us, okay? So in Cambridge, they will not appreciate it, but they will accept it because young students up to IGCSE cannot build up the concept of potential, okay? In simple terms, this water has nothing dissolved in it, right? If I want, I can dissolve in many substances here, correct? Because this one has nothing dissolved in it. This is just fresh water.
Yes, sir.
So this has high water potential, means it has higher potential of dissolving some substance in it. Whereas on the right side, there are some sucrose molecule. This water has a low water potential because now that some sucrose molecule is already dissolved in it, maybe we will not be able to dissolve many more sucrose molecule in that water because we already dissolved some. So in relative comparison, this receives a low water potential value. Making sense? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So,
sir.
yeah. The movement of water into and out of the cell occurs by the term osmosis. So what is osmosis? Osmosis is the movement of water Osmosis is the movement of water from a region of high water concentration to a low water concentration down to a low water concentration through a partially permeable membrane. Through a partially permeable membrane. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So this is a special type of diffusion. Okay. Just consider that this is a special type of diffusion. So the region of low water concentration is called dilute solution. The region of high water concentration, the region of high water concentration is dilute solution. The region of low water concentration is concentrated solution. So this will mess up with your mind a little bit. I just want you to study about it a little bit, research about it a little bit, all right, and prepare yourself for the next lesson. Okay, I will continue from here in the next lesson. We only have few pages left, and that includes some experiment. Okay, please go through this particular note. All right, so I will continue from here.
Okay, sir.
All right, so I'll continue from here. Okay, now see you in the next lesson then. All right, we'll call it a day today here. I'll stop the recording and upload the recording. Okay, all right, bye guys.
Okay, sir.
See you in the next lesson.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.